The desperate transmission Captain Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the UES Resilience, watching the stars shimmer through the viewport when the distress signal arrived. It wasn't like anything they'd heard before. The transmission crackled, with static, but beneath the interference was something that made every human on the bridge freeze, the sound of a mother's desperation. The voice belonged to Zirina, a Cathari female whose crystalline features appeared on their main screen. Her skin held the pale blue luminescence of her species, but now it flickered with exhaustion. Behind her, the interior of her damaged vessel sparked with failing systems. "Please, any vessel receiving this transmission," she pleaded, her voice breaking through the universal translator. "My child is dying. The raiders took our medical supplies. I have nothing left to bargain with except myself." Lieutenant Jackson Rivera, the ship's communications officer, looked up from his console. "Captain, she's broadcasting on 17 different frequencies. She's desperate," the Cathari woman continued, unaware she was being heard. "I will serve whoever saves my son. I will give my body, my mind, my very essence. Just please help him live." Captain Kane's jaw tightened. He'd seen too much suffering in the Outer Rim territories. The Cathari were a peaceful species, often targeted by pirates and slavers because of their valuable crystalline biology. Their children were especially vulnerable, requiring specific mineral compounds to survive their growth phases. "Sir," called out Navigator Tomas Valdez from his station, "her ship's life support is failing. At current degradation rates, they have maybe 6 hours." "And the child?" Kane asked. Medical Officer Dr. Priya Nambiar's face was grim as she analyzed the bio readings. "The Cathari juvenile is in critical condition. Without proper medical intervention within 4 hours, his cellular structure will begin irreversible collapse." Chief Engineer Wolfgang Schmidt looked up from his diagnostic panel. "Their ship's propulsion is completely dead, Captain. If we're going to help them, we'll need to bring them aboard." Kane studied the desperate mother on the screen. In his 15 years of deep space service, he'd learned to read desperation. This wasn't a trap or a trick. This was a mother watching her child die, willing to sacrifice everything for just a chance at his survival. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Kane knew his crew was waiting for his decision. The Outer Rim was dangerous, and picking up stranded aliens could mean complications with both human and alien authorities. But as he watched Zirina gently stroke her child's crystalline features, Kane remembered why humanity had ventured into the stars in the first place. It wasn't for conquest or glory. It was to prove that compassion could survive even in the cold void of space. "Rivera, open a channel," Kane ordered. "Let's bring them home." The rescue, the UES Resilience, moved through space with the precision that had made human vessels legendary among the galactic community. Captain Kane watched as their rescue shuttle, piloted by Ensign Maria Santos, approached the crippled Cathari vessel. "Visual contact established," Santos reported over the comm. "The ship's in worse condition than the scans indicated. Hull breaches on 3 decks, and I'm reading massive power fluctuations." Through the shuttle's camera feed, Kane could see Zirina pressed against a small viewport, her child cradled in her arms. The little Cathari's crystalline skin, which should have glowed with healthy blue-white light, was dim and flickering. "Dr. Nambiar, are you ready?" Kane asked. The medical officer was already suiting up in the shuttle bay. "Medical bay is prepped, Captain. I've synthesized what I believe are the correct mineral compounds based on Cathari physiology data, but I'll need to run tests once they're aboard." The rescue proceeded with textbook efficiency. Santos managed to dock with the damaged vessel despite its erratic power fluctuations. Within minutes, she was back on comms. "I have them, Captain. The mother is conscious but weak. The child—" She paused. "Sir, he's barely breathing." As the shuttle returned to the Resilience, Kane made his way to the medical bay. He arrived just as Dr. Nambiar was running her initial scans on the Cathari child. The boy couldn't have been more than the equivalent of a human 7-year-old, his small form barely registering on the medical table. Zerina stood beside her son, swaying with exhaustion, but refusing to leave his side. When she saw Kane, she immediately dropped to her knees in the traditional Cathari position of submission. "You saved us," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I am yours now. My life, my service, everything I am belongs to you." Kane looked down at the kneeling alien mother, his expression unreadable. Around the medical bay, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, but he could feel their attention on this moment. "Dr. Nambiar," he said instead of responding to Zerina. "What's his condition?" "Severe mineral depletion," she replied, not looking up from her instruments. "But treatable. I'm introducing synthesized compounds directly into his bloodstream. His cellular regeneration should begin within the hour." Zerina's luminescent skin flickered with hope. "He will live? He will live," Dr. Nambiar confirmed with a gentle smile. The Cathari mother collapsed with relief, tears streaming down her crystalline features. "Thank you," she sobbed. "How do I repay such a gift? I have nothing of value except myself." Kane finally knelt beside her, his voice gentle but firm. "Then I'll tell you how you can repay me." Zerina looked up, expecting to hear her fate as a servant or worse. "Raise your son to be kind," Kane said simply. "Teach him that mercy exists in this universe. Show him that not everyone takes what they want by force." The alien mother stared at him in shock. Around the medical bay, the crew continued their work, but Kane could see the pride in their eyes. This was what made humanity special among the stars. The healing bond. 3 days passed aboard the UES Resilience as young Kale, Zerina's son, slowly recovered from his near-death experience. The medical bay had become a second home to the Cathari family, with Dr. Nambiar monitoring the child's progress and the crew taking turns visiting their unexpected guests. Zerina remained bewildered by the human's kindness. She had expected servitude, perhaps worse, but instead found herself treated as an honored guest. Ensign Santos brought her meals from the ship's galley. Engineer Schmidt taught Kyle simple human games to keep the child occupied during his recovery. Navigator Valdez shared stories of distant worlds and stellar phenomena that left both mother and son wide-eyed with wonder. "I don't understand," Zerina confided to Captain Kane during one of his visits. "Why do you show us such kindness? We are nothing to you. Strangers from a species you barely know." Kane sat beside her, watching Kale play with a holographic puzzle that Lieutenant Rivera had programmed for him. The child's crystalline skin now glowed with healthy blue light, his laughter filling the medical bay with musical chimes. "Where I come from," Kane said. "We have an old saying, the measure of a civilization is how it treats its most vulnerable. Your son was dying. You were defenseless. What kind of people would we be if we demanded payment for basic compassion?" Zerina's large, opalescent eyes studied his face. "Your species confuses me, Captain Kane. In my travels, I have encountered many races. Most see weakness as opportunity. The strong take from the weak because they can." "Some humans think that way too," Kane admitted. "But the best of us learned long ago that true strength comes from lifting others up, not tearing them down." Dr. Nambiar approached with her medical scanner, smiling as she read Kyle's vital signs. "He's fully recovered, Captain. Cellular integrity is at optimal levels. Whatever those raiders did to their ship, it didn't cause any permanent damage to the boy." Kale jumped up from his game, running to his mother with the exuberance of a healthy child. "Mama, Dr. Priya says I can see the ship's engine room tomorrow. Engineer Schmidt promised to show me how human fusion reactors work." Zerina hugged her son close, her relief and joy evident in the bright pulsing of her skin. But when she looked at Kane, there was confusion in her expression. "Captain, "I must ask you something that troubles me deeply," she said. "My people have ancient stories about humans. We were told you were warriors, conquerors, who took what they wanted from weaker species. Yet you have shown us nothing but kindness. Which stories are true?" Kane was quiet for a long moment, considering his words carefully. Around them, the ship hummed with the routine activities of the crew, but this conversation felt important in a way that went beyond the immediate situation. "Both stories are true," he finally said. "Humans are capable of great cruelty and great kindness. We can be warriors when we need to defend what matters, but we can also be healers, teachers, and friends. The choice of which humans we become belongs to each of us." Young Kale looked up at the captain with bright, curious eyes. "What kind of human are you, Captain Kane?" Kane smiled at the child's direct question. "I try to be the kind my parents would be proud of, the kind that makes the universe a little better than I found it." The galactic revelation news of the rescue spread through the galactic communication networks faster than Captain Kane had anticipated. Within a week, the UES Resilience received messages from across the sector. Some were congratulatory, praising the human crew for their compassion. Others were less favorable. The first concerning transmission came from the Hegemony Council, a coalition of older galactic species that maintained strict protocols about interspecies interactions. "Captain Kane," the holographic image of Counselor Vextar materialized on the bridge, his reptilian features stern with disapproval. "Your actions with the Cathari refugees have been noted. The Council wishes to remind you that unauthorized assistance to non-allied species can complicate diplomatic relationships." Kane stood at attention, his expression neutral. "Understood, Counselor. However, I was operating under standard humanitarian protocols." "Humanitarian," Vextar repeated the word with distaste. "Such concepts are luxury for species with established territorial boundaries. You humans continue to act with dangerous idealism." After the transmission ended, Lieutenant Rivera looked up from his communications console. "Sir, we're receiving similar messages from 7 other species coalitions. They all seem concerned about our interference." Navigator Valdez frowned at his display. "What I don't understand is why they care so much about us helping one mother and child." The answer came 3 hours later when Zerina approached Captain Kane in his ready room, her expression troubled. "Captain, I must tell you something I should have mentioned before," she began, her crystalline skin flickering with nervous energy. "My family. We are not ordinary Cathari. My mate was Thronekeeper Zethran of the Cathari Dominion. Kale is not just my son. He is heir to one of the most resource-rich systems in this sector." Kane set down his datapad, giving her his full attention. "Go on." "The raiders who attacked us were not random pirates," Zyrina continued. "They were hired by the Zorkan Empire to eliminate the Cathari royal line. With my mate dead and Kale gone, they could claim our crystal mining worlds without opposition." "And now?" Kane asked, though he was beginning to understand the implications. "Now, by saving my son, you have prevented the Zorkan Empire from expanding their territory. You have maintained the balance of power in 3 star systems. The other galactic powers are nervous because your actions have had consequences far beyond simple compassion." Engineer Schmidt's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we have company. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple fleets converging on our position." Kane moved to the bridge with Zyrina following. The tactical display showed ships from at least 6 different species, all approaching their location. "Sir," Ensign Santos reported from the pilot station, "we have the Zorkan battle fleet, Hegemony Council enforcement vessels, 2 Cathari Royal cruisers, and what appears to be a Terran Defense Force squadron." Kane realized that their simple act of mercy had inadvertently positioned them at the center of a potential interstellar incident. But as he looked at young Kale playing with his holographic toys, still unaware of his royal heritage, Kane felt no regret. All stations, maintain standard protocols, he ordered. We saved a mother and child. Whatever political complications arise from that, we'll face them together. In the vast complexity of galactic politics, sometimes the simplest human choice could reshape the balance of power across star systems. The human choice. The bridge of the UES Resilience had never hosted such a diverse gathering. Representatives from 6 major galactic powers sat around the conference table, their forms ranging from the crystalline elegance of the Cathari to the imposing bulk of the Zorkan warlords. At the head of the table, Captain Marcus Kane remained standing, his human crew flanking him in a show of unity. Admiral Thorgrim of the Terran Defense Force, a weathered veteran with kind eyes, spoke first. Captain Kane, you've managed to create quite the situation out here. The political ramifications of your rescue operation are being felt across 3 sectors. With respect, Admiral, Kane replied, we rescued a mother and child from certain death. I'm not sure how that creates political ramifications. Warlord Grakthar of the Zorkan Empire slammed a massive fist on the table, his scarred features twisted with anger. You interfered with the natural order. The weak were meant to fall, making way for the strong. The natural order? Dr. Nambiar stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. According to our medical scans, the only thing that was natural about their situation was that raiders murdered an unarmed diplomat and left his family to die. Counselor Vextar's scaled head tilted toward Kane. Captain, you must understand. Young Kale's survival changes the ownership of 17 mineral-rich worlds. Fortunes rise and fall on such things. Then perhaps, Kane said quietly, those fortunes were built on the wrong foundation. A new voice entered the conversation as Princess Lyra Thin of the Cathari Dominion materialized via hologram. Her crystalline features were regal, her presence commanding immediate respect. I am Kale's great-aunt and current regent, she announced. I formally request custody of my nephew and his mother. They will be safe under our protection. Zirina, who had been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke. And if I refuse? If I choose to stay with these humans who saved us without asking for reward? The question sent ripples of shock through the assembled representatives. Even Princess Lyra Thin's luminescent skin flickered with surprise. Warlord Grakthar leaned forward. You would choose these soft humans over your own people, over wealth and power? I choose kindness, Zirina said simply. My son and I have seen what power without compassion creates. We have lived with the consequences of strength without mercy. Captain Kane raised his hand for attention. With respect to all present, this isn't about politics or territory or resources. This is about a mother's right to choose her child's future. Admiral Thorgrim smiled slightly. And what does humanity choose, Captain? Kane looked around the table at the various alien representatives, then at his crew, and finally at Zirina and young Kale, who had quietly entered the bridge during the discussion. We choose to offer sanctuary, he said. Not as conquerors or politicians, but as friends. If Zirina and Kale wish to return to the Cathari Dominion, we'll escort them safely. If they choose to remain with us, they'll be welcome aboard human vessels for as long as they wish. And the political consequences? Counselor Vextar asked. Will be what they are, Kane replied. Humanity didn't come to the stars to play politics. We came to explore, to learn, and to prove that intelligence and compassion can coexist. Sometimes that means making choices that others find inconvenient. Young Kale tugged on his mother's robes. Mama, can we stay with Captain Kane? I like the humans. They're funny and they make good food, and they don't care that I'm important. Zirina knelt beside her son, her crystalline skin glowing with warm light. Do you know what you're choosing, my little star? I'm choosing the people who helped us when we needed help. Cale said with the clear logic of childhood. That's what you taught me, isn't it? To remember kindness? The alien representatives watched this exchange with varying degrees of confusion, respect, and in Grakthar's case, disgust. But Admiral Thorgrim's expression was one of quiet pride. Then it's settled, Kane announced. The UES Resilience will continue its mission with 2 new crew members, if they'll have us. As the various representatives departed, each carrying news of humanity's choice back to their respective governments, Kane remained on the bridge with his crew and their new family members. Lieutenant Rivera looked up from his communications console. Sir, we're receiving hundreds of messages from across the sector. Apparently, word of what happened here is spreading. Good or bad? Kane asked. Mixed, Rivera replied with a grin. But, Captain, I'm also receiving applications. It seems a lot of people want to serve aboard the ship that chooses compassion over politics. Kane looked out at the stars, knowing that their simple choice had changed something fundamental in how humanity was perceived among the galactic community. They had proven that strength and kindness were not mutually exclusive, that true power came from lifting others up rather than tearing them down. In the end, they hadn't conquered anything or anyone. They had simply chosen to be human. The end.